Additions or changes to the agenda? I would like to discuss reorganization of the committee, or whatever we do, but it's
Yeah,
something we
at
have
the end
to...
of the meeting, okay, and I just want...
Is that how you want to do that?
Yes.
I nominate Frank to be the chairman.
Yeah, right.
Penny said at the end of the meeting. I think she's ready to take over.
Frank, I don't see it on here, but we were gonna discuss a date for, a chat with the neighbors on our...
Yeah, public meeting for the access.
Okay?
Okay, so we'll add those two. Anybody else?
I had made a note about the continuance for new driftway project at the top of the agenda.
That's going to be continued as well?
It was, they filed a request to continue, yes.
The pipes,
Okay.
17 new
the sewer
driftway.
pipe, yeah.
No, not 17, I'm sorry, 10.
Oh,
10 new driftway.
it isn't on here at all.
Right, because they had continued twice in a row, so it didn't make the agenda. So it was amended onto the final agenda, but we're just going to read the continuance.
Okay. Do you, well, we're working our way through some other stuff.
It is.
Do you have the two sheets, maybe they're in here, for Glades and Surfside?
They should be all in there in order, Frank.
Okay, so I'll make a motion we accept the
Got one.
agenda with the three add-ons.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can I continue driftway right away? It's after 6:20.
Sure.
Okay, I make a motion that we continue 10 driftway to August
20th.
20th at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If you're doing continuances and it's after 6:20, you might as well do 180 and 178
I
Central
make a
Ave.
motion that we continue 178 Central Ave to 86 at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to continue 182 Central Ave.
Oh, 180.
No,
182 is not being continued. That's
no,
all.
180 is up there. I thought I said 182.
You're 182, correct? Yeah.
Oh, then there's a misprint here, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna continue 180
Mm-hmm.
Central Ave to August 6th at 6:20.
Great, thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. So we have an RDA for... What's that? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, before I forget. There's two new faces here tonight. Jen has replaced Carol after many, many years, and we look forward to working with Jen on holding up the fort. You don't know what job you have there. I bet you'll get it pretty quick. Guys like the engineers and stuff will tell you how it all works.
Right.
Squared away. And Doug Auberg is our new commission member.
Welcome.
So thank you very much for stepping up. Appreciate it.
See what I got into.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a long time since we had 7 people.
I know.
4 times in 7
Been
years
years.
since I've been here.
Is
4
that-
times
Yes.
we've had
Is that right?
7 people here, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That only leads to more discussion and
Yeah, I
debate.
know, no.
Okay. We have an RDA for, is it
Rapple J.
Rapple J? Thank you.
Not quite as easy as snow, but
Thanks for the help.
yeah, of course.
And let's see. During our July 23rd, 2018 meeting at 6:15 PM, the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Lisa and George Rappelj for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws to relocate septic components and build an addition, deck, and above-ground pool on property located at 17 Langdon Lane, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Gregory Morse. I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering, representing George Rappelj, who's the property owner and applicant. This is an RDA associated with an addition being constructed at their home, septic tank relocation. The property is at 17 Langdon Lane. Pointing to the plan, Langdon Lane is at the bottom of the page. The property line is in black. The existing home is centrally located on the lot. Out back, highlighted in blue, is a bordering vegetated wetland. This was originally delineated by Peggy Frantosi, a wetland scientist, about 6 years ago, associated with a septic system project that was done at this house. When we surveyed the property, the wetland line appears to be in the same location. It is maintained lawn surface right up to the rear lot line. The wetland hasn't changed since that time. Off of that wetland in red is the 50-foot buffer zone and the 100-foot buffer zone. What brings us before you tonight is the relocation of, there's a septic tank and a pump chamber in the back of the house. We are moving those to the proposed location. It is outside of the 100-foot buffer, those two tanks, but we feel that the excavation and hole associated with installing those would slightly encroach into the 100-foot buffer. Secondarily, off the back of the home is an addition being constructed, and part of that addition is construction of an above-ground pool that I've highlighted. That above-ground pool goes into the 100-foot buffer. It's located at a distance of 83 feet from the wetland area. The wetland regulations, specifically 310 CMR 10.02B, allow for the conversion of existing lawn areas to accessory single-family home uses such as sheds, porches, and pools. The above-ground pool is the only thing that's in the 100-foot buffer aside from the minor excavation associated with the relocation of the septic tank. I'd turn it over to you if you had any comments.
Patty?
No, because you're not going into the ground, so I don't have a problem with what you're doing under, and it's kind of half and half. It doesn't explain it completely. No, I think it looks good and the subject's good. Always good.
Question.
Richard?
Greg, you said you probably will disturb into the 100 initially when you're, or you may, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the excavation for the septic tank may go 2 or 3 feet into the 100-foot buffer zone.
Then I would presume it'll all be,
It is its
protected.
existing lawn area, it would go back as lawn area.
All right, I'm good.
Paul?
Looks good.
Lisa?
Looks good.
Jen?
Nope.
Amy? That's
Yeah,
enough?
looks good. Appears to meet the requirements of a -3 determination.
Greg, is there any kind of lawn delineate? I mean, there's a word that says lawn, but just roughly where is the edge of the, how far
Sure,
back?
so the back lot line is labeled, I think it's stone wall, it's lawn right up to the stone wall.
So the whole thing's a stone wall.
Correct.
So this wetlands,
So the wetlands is off this site, it's on the property out behind this one.
sure.
Beyond the stone wall is essentially where the woodland starts.
Anybody in the audience?
I
Okay,
make a motion for -3.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. So we've got Greenbush Station LLC, Genta 17 Driftway, replace 60 feet of sewer pipe.
Again, for the record, Gregory Morse representing Greenbush Station LLC. This is a notice of intent that was filed for the purpose of upgrading a existing sewer pipe. It's part of the Greenbush sewer area. The plan here, we have the new driftway demarcated here. What I've highlighted in red is our proposed area of work. This is located in the parking lot of the Rivershed Restaurant, Duval Dance Studio, the old Raymond's Paint site. As you probably remember, back in 2004, 2006, the town installed the Greenbush Sewer Project. As part of that project, they constructed a pump chamber, a wet well system in the middle of the parking lot area. and associated with that is the piping that comes in from the Greenbush neighborhood, and specifically from the last manhole of that system over to the wet well is an 8-inch sewer pipe that services that system. That 8-inch sewer pipe is undersized for the capacity of the Greenbush area. And as part of the 50 Country Way project, which is the project being constructed behind Morning Glories, the developer of that project is proposing to upgrade that sewer pipe from an 8-inch pipe to a 12-inch pipe to handle the additional capacity. It would be replaced in the same location as the existing 8-inch pipe. This is located under a portion of the asphalt in the parking lot there and a portion of the grass strip adjacent to the parking lot as you go in. It's approximately 12 feet below grade. We would be excavating a trench, providing bypass pumping around that excavation. Around that excavation, we specified that an erosion control barrier would be installed. And then post-construction, any of the disturbed asphalt would be repaved and the disturbed lawn area would be restored as lawn area. Immediately adjacent to this pipe, however, is the Herring Brook. The Herring Brook is very well defined. It's a riprap channel. It is a perennial river. The work associated with this sewer project is within the 200-foot setback of that. The bank associated with that river is approximately 5 feet away from the limit of work associated with this. DEP had no comments. I'd turn it over to you.
Penny?
So this is an existing pipe being replaced.
It's an existing pipe that
Needs to be replaced.
was undersized, I believe, from the beginning, and it's being replaced with a bigger pipe.
Okay. So, even though it's so close, it's an existing, it needs correction.
No real questions about the project, just this is a pump system?
Yeah, so the whole Greenbush area, including Country Way, Pin Oak Drive, Driftway, all that area, it all flows by gravity down to this parking lot in front of the Rivershed Restaurant. And then there's a pump lift station there, which pumps it up Driftway to the water treatment plant.
12-inch pipe is pretty massive for a
It
pump
is.
system, so
So this
the
is,
pump itself can handle it? I mean, the
Yeah.
lift station's not in danger of, it's not undersized?
no, so this is from the last manhole in the system into the wet well is an 8-inch pipe, so it's not a pressurized pipe.
It's not?
No,
Okay.
so the 12-inch will flow by gravity into the
Gotcha,
wet well.
okay. I misunderstood.
Then it
I thought
pumps.
you were pumping a
Yeah.
12-inch pipe. Okay. No cut.
Greg, when, in relation to the bank, what protection are you giving while that's being done?
At this time, we're proposing just an erosion control barrier, put up a mulch sod along
Would that be enough?
You probably won't be leaving any open trench, right? Or,
Well,
there'll certainly be a trench box used, given the depth of it. And due to the parking lot and parking areas, the material that gets dug out is going to be loaded in a dump truck and removed from the site. We're not stockpiling materials there. And then new material would be brought in to backfill the trench. If you wanted to include a condition that we put up a construction fence along the limit of work or something, we would certainly entertain it as part of the project.
Paul?
no questions.
What time of year were you thinking of doing this?
They're anxious to do it, so I would expect that it'll be done in August through end of September sometime.
Thank you.
Jen?
Nope, I'm good.
Amy, any comments?
Well, so this is a limited project under the Wetlands Protection Act and allowable as a maintenance project. DEP has a DEP number and no comments, appears to meet the requirements of the applicable regulations and bylaw, so.
Anybody in the audience? So, my recollection is that this was installed by the town, that they took some of that property by eminent domain to install that pump station and pipe. And so it's a piece of town pipe, but it sounds like it's a private project or working with the town to,
Yeah, working with the town, really. The developer at 50 Country Way got all of his permits and began construction of that project. And one of the last pieces is his connection to the town sewer. And as part of getting the permit for that connection, the town has asked that he upgrade this pipe. In reviewing that pipe, it appears that that pipe was undersized well before the 50 Country Way project.
Sure.
They've had problems with backups. So the town and the developer have negotiated, I believe, to split the costs. The developer can get the work done at a much more reasonable rate than putting it out for public bid. So the developer has taken on this project. It is a town-owned pipe. It is within a town-owned easement.
Greg, where's the manhole that you're going to with the 12-inch pipe? Where is that?
Yeah, so the manhole is right here, which is right on the edge of the pavement. As you come into that parking lot, it's right on the left-hand side.
So it's only that short section of pipe that has to be replaced?
It's only a 60-foot long section of pipe. They have feeding that they have several 8-inch lines coming in from various locations.
I see.
And then that one last pipe they left is an 8-inch pipe.
So I mean, it seems like changing that out, it's gonna be more of a logistical thing. You're gonna keep everybody working, so I'm assuming that they're gonna be using like pump trucks in that manhole, and that's gonna be the key thing in terms of protecting the brook, that there's a good procedure in place to be sure that, that
That the bypass pumping
is
is effective.
to me, that would be like the most critical piece, aside from somebody, you're gonna use a trench box, you're gonna be digging, unless there was some real bad breakout or something. Certainly doing it when it's dry is even better along the Herring Brook. There'd be less chance of water. But, is that coordinated with DPW or?
Yeah, it's going to be coordinated with DPW. They're going to be out there inspecting the project as it goes, but it is a private contractor. He has his drain layer license in Scituate that would be doing the work. But DPW has reviewed the plan, and I imagine they're going to be out there for all of their inspections throughout the process.
Do you want them to notify Amy prior to start?
I'm just
Make
wondering,
sure
I'm just
everybody-
wondering in our conditions, that we can be assured that they've taken the
All precautions.
precautions to, nobody wants a problem. I'm sure they don't want it more than anybody else, but it would be good to know.
If there was a condition for appropriate bypass pumping to be reviewed with the sewer department and the conservation agent.
Something like that would be helpful. Okay. Does that make sense? I think,
Yeah.
okay.
I make a motion to close.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. So we've continued 180 Central Ave and 178 Central Ave. So Bronstein at 182 Central Ave.
Yeah.
So you're up.
Drawings and I,
Okay.
yes, I'm Roger Crawford, representing Wall Street owner. And in the last year, the board suggested that we provide a detail of exactly what we were doing.
Right.
And also an estimate of how much the town was going to be for the
Sure.
builders,
Yep.
which we have not on the revised plan. I believe we have some copies of it. The revised tonnage is, I think, 160 tons. That's kind of hard to say. I kind of.
Bob, I think he wants that mic a little bit closer to your,
I kind of kept it on the high side because I don't really know how much he's going to be able to pull up from stuff that was not built.
sure.
So, like I say, I kept it kind of on the high, what I thought was the high side. basically, it's going to amount to something in the order of 4 feet to foot and a half, I should say, foot and a half to 4 feet. Additional riprap to bring it up to elevation 17. Let's see, there's some pictures of
just
one of the houses in the area.
I know your concern was just to kind of have an idea of what it was going to be when you get done. It wasn't, just some quantification of what it was going to be. So these are just 3 pictures from what's here now. Okay, just, period. These were actually done after they put a lot of the road cobble back on the beach. So unfortunately, it's not the best picture, but anyway, back is looking down. And then what I guess the easiest way to say is, I spoke to my neighbor, which is I think 3 houses down, who had done it, rebuilt buildings during this last stroke, it was not permanent, and had done it about 5 years as well. And so what I'm trying to achieve is pretty much what they have. So I took a couple of pictures from a longitudinal north-south view, so you get the depth, and a couple of pictures looking through front, forward back, you get an idea of what it would look like as well. So as far as what we're trying to emulate would be really riprap to rebuild up the level as we have really from I think it's 3, 4, there's probably 4 houses for me, I think, that kind of have that done. And I kind of really embarrass myself here, but it looks like
With Photoshop?
but yeah. I mean, I don't know how else to do it, and that's kind of like, I don't laugh. But my wife looked at it and said, that looks like.
Yeah.
But again, looking down on that same picture.
Yep, we'll bring them.
So this would be from that deck, looking down, and this would be from the front, looking forward. Don't put that in front of my name on it. So anyway, what you had asked for was some quantification of what we wanted to do, and I think on the engineering plans, Bob has also extended out, what that wall would look like over the 3 properties, because you would ask for that as well.
Right.
So I think that's on paper. So that's hopefully enough of a quantification to try to, give you some assurances of what it is we're trying to do here.
Okay. Thank you. Penny?
I find myself in a real quandary here. That what DEP says can and can't be done, you go and look under their regs, and what CCM says, and everything. And first and foremost, if this ever does happen, I think all 3, it should be a joint project, all 3 of you. And my best feeling on this is because I sympathize with you people, you want to protect your home, but I personally do not blatantly go against what I read this week in the regs, okay? So my suggestion is that a consultant, coastal consultant is brought in and see if we can come up with something that you and them, everybody, that DEP would accept.
Did this go to the DEP? Because I thought they came down and did they have comment on that?
Yeah, we can comment.
I thought.
Well, this particular project, there was not a comment listed, but the principles apply to all 3 of them. It's the same regs. I mean, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
And what is the register HBH?
Amy, you can quote it better than I can. I have my notes.
Well, I'm not
on
going
it.
to quote them, but
No.
basically, if you have a property that does not have existing hard revetment post 1978, you're not allowed to create hard revetment. So they want you to use a softer solution. So something that's got, volume and material that's like what is already there. So
And so we-
Consistent to what's there, you
Sure,
know?
but we already have the remedies there, and there's no question that this has been established. We've had the house since 1968. I don't have, that unfortunately. So again, clean line, three houses down, it's been twice done in the last 8-9 years. One was during this last open permit. But I guess, so to me, it's not that we're trying to create something new. And, hopefully my neighbors can do the same. I can't speak for what they're going to do, because this is a project. It seems to me, there's no disputing there's a riprap there, which I'm just trying to reestablish. And that's why I don't understand what the regulations are.
So, what Amy said, you cannot build under the regulations a seawall of any kind, period. You have some existing structure. You have a right to go out and reposition that structure, to work with what you have, maybe even some replenishment of stone. Somewhere between replenishment and some volume of stone, I think, is you're building something, if that makes sense. It's bigger than a bread box and smaller than a garage. I mean, so I think that, in your case, since you have something, it's not, you could definitely work with what you have. Is there some volume of stone you can use to replenish it? But you can't just, because you have something, go and build a 12-foot seawall, if that makes sense. I mean, that's...
It does. So I guess when I, make a case for us, look at three houses down from me, what they've done the last 10 years, which is what we're trying to achieve. And they've done that, you've been down there. I mean, this isn't like it's a new project.
Right, but when we...
A lot in the last...
If you have a neighbor with a cesspool, you cannot build a new house and put a cesspool in because your neighbor has a cesspool. I mean, we have to look at this specific project, nothing else,
Even though they're all been done within...
even though they're all
And they all conform.
this project.
Wait, can I just clarify
Yeah,
that
and
quickly?
it would be
please?
good
You're
to
saying-
just pick an order, so you'd...
I'm
go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
You're saying that these projects that you took pictures of were done within the last 10 years?
Correct.
That's his house, right? This one right here, this is his home.
182 on the top says, that's what I have right now.
And then-
It's 2 pages.
And then the house that's further to the south, which you think is McCarthy? The
Yeah,
blue
it's
house?
actually, yes, it's north, yes, right.
North, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's McCarthy's house and McKinnon's old house.
Right.
Which is-
And I think Amy and I stopped at McCarthy's right after Riley. You and I, it's one of the houses that you and I went up to. The guy was working in the front yard. I think Cobra was doing some work there, if you remember.
I do.
And so we found them placing some new stone, but they hadn't really notified the commission of that. So I'm not sure that all of that is totally,
I mean, I don't, I can't speak to that.
yeah. So,
I guess my sense is there a way, and I understand DEP's regs, I really do, there's no doubt about it. But sometimes you can look at these things in isolation. And my understanding of this all, you're trying to protect property, you're trying to protect the beach, you're also trying to save the wetlands. So, there's a lot of things at play here.
And they know that.
Well, and I know that, but it's not like there's a line in the sand that DEP says, oh, you can't, there's a balancing act. It just seems that, what I want to do is not exceed in any way form, but try to do something that's reasonable, that would not harm one way or the other, because they're continuing to repair walls up and down the coast. The towns have millions and millions of dollars to do these projects. So it's just frustrating because I'm a homeowner, been there forever, and I'm not trying to recreate the wheel, I'm not trying to play a problem, I'm not trying to be a developer to do something.
yeah.
And I don't want to spend a fortune doing it either, that's the other aspect.
Right.
Well,
So
they're
the
not
argument
saying
says,
you
well,
can't do anything, that's the thing, is it's just it needs to be designed in a particular manner so that the material is consistent with what they want to see there. So that's why I think the recommendation for a coastal geologist to give a look at the design is a good one.
Okay.
Isn't the design a standard?
Can we, let's just keep moving down here for a minute, and then we'll try to pull things together, all right? Doug, do you have any other questions or comments?
Just-
I mean, we can
just-
go back to it,
Just
too.
these pictures are better than the ones I'd seen. I haven't actually been out there, but this is what you have now?
That is what I have, that was taken.
And so you want to beef this up?
Correct. And that is for, there's a lot of, I mean, I'm not gonna dig up every rock and replace them, but I think as they go through it, they're probably gonna, a lot of the rocks that fall forward, are probably gonna.
Doug, what he's been trying to say that I don't hear him saying is, he wants to take the existing riprap, realign it to come up to elevation 17, and then once they realign it because it all sinks, then add whatever needs to be just to bring it up to 17. Not anymore, not redesign, and definitely not revetment.
I don't know the lingo of that.
Thank you. I think understood.
It's just a quick clarification. Is the existing stone at elevation 17, or is it
No.
below that?
That is going to about 15 and a half at this point.
About 15 and a half?
I
Okay.
don't know what it was before
Okay.
we stormed.
Richard?
Right.
I think Penny's comment in the beginning, I totally agree with. It's really a bit of a conundrum because the stone that would normally be used is repeatedly washed through, scoured out under the houses. If it's left there, goes out into the street and eventually fills in the marsh on the other side in the river. And so, yes, it's good, but it's also destructive, as the rules are now. And it's one of those things where the rules in general are probably 98% effective. I'm not sure it works on this particular beach. And so that really is a conundrum to me. I'm with Paul 100% that something is there. We should be able to allow something that's going to effectively protect the homeowner without necessarily having all the stone go across and fill in the marshland. So I recognize the rules. I think your statement personally only, that there's got to be a middle road here that somehow we can figure out something is appropriate. If we can find a scientist that can come up with an answer that's better, I think that's a great step. The other thing that I know is recommended is, to put in seagrass and all that. The problem in that particular area is it takes years for there to be an effective barrier built for seagrass. And unfortunately, if we get through 1 year without destruction, we're doing really good. And that's just a fact of that particular beach. I happen to live further down. I don't have quite the same issue, but I see it. I'm close enough to see it. So.
Oh, no, and it's interesting, I think I said it last time that I was here, I've been coming down here since the mid-60s, and even the pictures that we have from the aerial, the house, the beach remarkably hasn't changed that much. It's changed.
In fact, in some places, it's gotten bigger. I concur with that.
Has been, and in front of my house, it was all eelgrass. There were clams, mussels. Now that cobble extends 30, 40, 50 feet up. And so to me, again, I look at things in a common sense saying, I understand there's extremes, but if you're going to go down the middle to say, they can say all day long about, well, this is what happens to a beach. Well, let's look at what's happened to this beach. Common sense would dictate that beach hasn't changed really appreciably in all those years. It's higher some years, lower some years. It varies. But the opposite side has gotten huge change, which again is rationale to me to say it's not unreasonable to try to do what I'm trying to do, which is not go fast one, not build up 40-foot, high.
Sure.
Well, yeah.
Paul, do you want to add anything to what you had?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think, if I was the king, I'd let everybody in Hummerock build a wall in front of their house. Because the reason they passed this regulation, if you read what went into it, is because in case they say a barrier beach will naturally migrate towards land, and it's supposed to, and they don't want to impede that. They want the rocks in the marsh, in the river, and everything moving landward. However, what's crazy on a developed beach is they tell you can't build a seawall because it will slow the migration. Then the town and every homeowner shows up with equipment and takes everything and puts it back on the beach, where you can't have a seawall to stop the flow. But that's the regulation. So, we're trying to figure a way we can meet those and help you. Like, I don't know if you remember, Amy, maybe like a year ago at the other end of Ocean, we had talked to the state and someone was trying to do this, and they said, they talked about using those stone baskets.
Gabion
And,
basket.
yeah, and then putting a dune over it. And they were like, well, if it's covered with a dune, it's not a seawall. And you could build a pretty good structure with those, you know, that'd be formidable weight. But so there, possibly there's a way to do this. We're just trying to be consistent and follow.
To do the yards and then put the sand on top of it.
Right, right. And when we talked about this before, they said that would be a great test to try an alternative to a seawall.
Because the fact is, they're trying to get that approved, which my understanding is coming very close, to elevating the road, which is the barrier itself, and then building dune, which is what we're trying to do anyway. So I have no issue whatsoever to try to put some rock and put the dune on top of it, so that
Right.
sand washes away, you know, then you're left with what left.
Right, so, but
We
in,
would rebuild that every night.
as I said, you already have some rock, you have some structure to work with, but you could even look at that using the rock you have and some gabions of rock and then putting some sand over it,
It's just,
making a dune.
what's hard for me is I feel like it's a, you know, you don't know where I'm going, and we can hire consultants who can do a lot of things, and I don't know what's gonna work. It just seems like we're trying to create a solution for something that's not easy. There's no definition to make that solution. And that's why I just, and I know you feel my frustration because you all live down here, so I certainly appreciate your input.
Sure.
Anything that we can do to better quantify that we can-
Well, let's keep moving through the members, and then we'll get to our agent, and then we'll see what we can do. Lisa?
As I was listening to what Paul was saying about what they had talked about in Oceanside, is that very similar to the pilot program that we had done on Atlantic Ave? In front of Dr. Tanetta's and Turner's?
I think that was more of a cobbled dune. It's not built with.
Because they had the post, but
The posts, and there was fencing,
Yeah, but I don't
Right.
remember anything in the back
but there's
there.
no, I think the closest is the one that Paul recalls with the gabion baskets being covered.
Right, because then you've got some mass that's not going to get washed away.
And I think the similarity that those projects share is a coastal geologist who specializes in these nourishment and rebuild projects designed it. Not putting down Bob, because I know that you do a lot of work on Humrock and specialize in a lot of the rebuilds and septics, but there are definitely, it's a niche for these geologists that design, there's, half a dozen firms that we see often that design these dunes. Cobble dunes, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know the official
Right.
recognized
It's new.
word. I don't
It's
wanna say
experimental.
that, though.
Experimental.
Right. Yes. Good point,
Lisa,
Lisa.
any other?
No, that sounds like it could be, it's something we haven't tried.
Right. Jen?
Nothing that hasn't already been said.
Okay. Amy, do you want to add to?
Well, no, and I like I agree. This is a quandary. It's a difficult situation, and everybody had excellent points. And I don't think that the point is that we want, or that we are moving towards removing what is already there. Repositioning what, trying to use what's already there would be helpful, but then it's what you add to it. I think, I'm not so sure that the plan is clear to me, exactly what's proposed, and what I have seen, though, is I'm not sure that I'm technically qualified to, recommend it.
Sure.
So I do know that, as proposed, hard revetments do not meet the requirements of the Wetland Protection Act, so they're specifically not allowed, which, is a difficult part of the situation for sure. So, otherwise, I think I'm repeating.
Any question? This was all through to the state.
Yes.
So when the EP came out, because I know when I talked to Paul, I think it said there was some.
So on-
They didn't want him to do it because.
Can you speak towards the mic a little bit, or just?
Just move it.
I think perhaps what you're getting at, Rick, is that, so there's 3 projects, all proposing similar projects. 2 came in so DEP recognized them out of the gate as new revetment. So that's an easy thing for them to immediately say does not meet the requirements, performance standards for a coastal dune and barrier beach, which means not permittable. On this one, the project description did not go in like that, so it was repair of existing, so they did not make a comment. However, when I discussed the projects with the DEP folks, they, commented the same thing. It's like, well, you have to look at what's there on the ground now, and I mean, so to the extent that you can work with what's there, obviously do that, but otherwise, you're looking at what they would term more of a nourishment project, not revetment, not building new, because, and so that's just it. So.
There's a few facets to this that we might want to think about. One, you point to other neighbors or structures along your way, and some of those were there prior to regulations prohibiting structure. For a long time, people were just pouring walls and building whatever, and somewhere along the way, and I don't know the dates, DEP weighed in and said, well, wait a minute, we don't think that this is the correct way to deal with this. We think something different ought to happen. And Paul's point that all this stuff washes over seems crazy to us in many places, not just in Hummerock. We look at it at Peggotty Beach, and we see other areas, and we're saying, is this really practical? Is this going to work? I mean, why do we want all that overwash to wind up in the river so we have to dredge it? We don't look at it any differently than you do on that side. Some people have gone ahead and done their work without permission, and we've been at different sites. Say after Storm Riley, we've got some enforcement orders now where people took the liberty of doing things beyond what they were supposed to do, and other people are careful to not do that, and they come in and say, listen, here's what I want to do, and I want to do it by the book, and I'm going to get permission rather than to do it beforehand, not ask for forgiveness afterwards, and we appreciate that, and so we want to try to work with those folks as well. The difficulty that we have as a town is that there's an agency that oversees what we do, and the town of Scituate is involved in a lot of programs, including the Community Rating Service. So that component gets all the residents in Scituate a good break on their flood insurance. But in order to do that, we have to work with all the different agencies, CZM, DEP, or whatever, and show that we are working in good faith to comply with what they want, and then in turn they rate us. And so the benefit of that is everyone across the board gets preferential rates on their flood insurance, and the town does better at grants and other things with this. So we can't just ignore those regulations. And and the other frustrating part is, as a contractor, we see it most recently with a couple of code things. There were energy issues that came up, and they wrote these energy things in that just, when you started to apply them, it just didn't make sense. Or the wind code. But it's taken years to unravel and sort out some of the problems that were instituted with this. And so I know that you look at it and you say, well, geez, this is fairly simple. We want to rearrange these stones. We want to add, the kind of tonnage that Bob's talking about is 5 or 6 truckloads of stone, 4 truckloads. It's not a big amount of stone, and you could reprotect your house from something that you lost during Riley, which, kind of too bad in a way that you didn't submit something during that 60-day process. But it was hard to get anybody. Yeah, and it was hard. It was really hard to get the work done in that small window. You had to really be on top of it to get. Yeah. So. But. Right.
He's referring to the Barton House. That had the.
And the third thing is, to Amy's point, a lot of this is fairly technical. There's, when we were fixing a wall after Riley for a customer in Duxbury, I grabbed a consultant, a coastal geologist, said, hey, here's how I want to fix this. Am I on the right path with this? And we gave that information to the Conservation Commission and the town down there and said, hey, we're going to do this under this window if we can do it, but we think that this is a good method to hopefully protect our customers' home. So I don't know that the outcome would be much different, and it's another cost. I'm just wondering.
So are you looking for, if you're bringing a coastal engineer, for him to really have an impact report on what this was due, as opposed to, because, you know, what we're proposing is kind of straightforward.
Right.
So we can see, you know, we've got the time to do it. What we're trying to do is
Yeah.
clearly there. So are we, just so I understand,
guess-
is it more you trying to find an impact that
Well-
an engineer says this won't be a problem for the beach?
Well, I'm wondering, Amy, you know, where you did not get negative feedback from DEP, but you've been questioning them because of these other two projects.
Right, so
So you've sort of rolled all these
conferred with multiple sources about, you
Right.
know, what do we do with these projects? Because they specifically do not meet the requirements of the act, but, you know, we obviously want to try to work towards the same goal, which is to try to add protection to these homes and so on. So, you know, specific guidance would be that it would be more of a soft nourishment, but that you could reuse what you have, you know, certainly reposition on this particular one, what you have. But what you would add, you'd want to look at the material and the volume and to make sure that it's designed appropriately to get the maximum benefit. So.
That's the problem, I think.
Well, the other two are very different from this in that he's got something he's working with
Right,
to
right,
start.
right. The
They're
other-
starting from scratch and
Right.
saying, what can we do?
Right.
He's,
And that's frustrating for a person that's right next door, says, well, this is kind of ludicrous. I mean, here I am, my neighbor's got some fortification, my other neighbors on the other side have some fortification, but I can't have it. However, you know, to your point, if one neighbor has a cesspool, doesn't mean the
Right.
next one's gonna get one. It's,
Okay, so here's just a point, and as I recall from the last hearing, we talked about dimensions of the proposed structure, right? You know, the question was, well, how high should it be? Well, how wide should it be? That's the types of questions that a coastal geologist would know. You know, you're gonna get maximum benefit if it's so wide, so tall. I mean, maybe there's a restriction on height. I just am not sure how to design one of those, or I would probably be doing that, but.
right.
The other concern I have very candidly is, which is one of the reasons I was going to plan on doing this, and my neighbors, my friends, I knew what they were going to do, but I didn't want to get tied in with this 3-for-1, 1-for-3, because now they're connected with other intrinsic problems.
Right.
And so, and I have no issue with any of this. I mean, you know, again, as you said so eloquently, it's frustrating, it's a conundrum. You know, you spend $100,000 on doing engineers and impact for really
Yeah.
disproportionate to what we're talking about.
And
I don't
there's,
want to get sucked into that either.
there's nobody up here
He's
that,
here free, he's saying he's gonna- just because he's a nice guy, but,
well,
you know, so that's why I say, and I don't know how much you can optimize this, how many times, how many walks, and so on.
yeah. What we have, though, to follow up on what, the commission in the past has looked for multiple areas to be dealt with at the same, you know, for one person to do just one little piece didn't make much sense, and we've always encouraged folks to try to work together. But I understand that you're tied up, yeah, because if they're denied,
right, and they're a different animal than him, yeah.
Right.
We had one in Wrexham, remember, it was the only house there without a seawall. It's like you can't put a seawall.
Right.
Everything's armored around them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're the only house, but
Well, I think that to use the word deny is pretty harsh. I mean, so it's, maybe the project as proposed is not desirable because it doesn't meet the requirements of the regulations, but if you modified the design so that it did meet, then it would be permittable, right? So,
yeah, I would say there's some level of work here that
Yeah.
that repair and replenishment.
Between that shoebox and the garage.
Yeah.
And this address
Yeah.
already has something to work with, but your neighbors have less to work with, but the solution would all be probably very similar.
But to Amy's point, for us to stand, for us as a commission or her as an agent to say, well, those stones are fine, you know, I mean, I know that when they design these pieces, they talk about the size of the stones, the weight of the stones, the mass, that there's a fair amount to it. It's not just, granted, a pile of stones is better than nothing, but,
Turn that off, you know.
The one to be planted, yeah, there's a lot to it.
yeah.
You must love these cases.
Well,
It's all come here, all three times.
you know, this,
It's like I can remember.
you can tell that everybody appreciates your dilemma, so.
Oh, no,
we're-
I appreciate your
And at the same time, we want to make sure that we make decisions that
Oh, and I know
are
it's one of the
consistent.
lessons you know, today, just to try to give you some quantification of what we were trying to do. I think Jim
I'm-
thought there was, they were, 4 or 5 foot blocks, very similar to what was there.
Yeah.
And just trying to,
I mean, before you spend any money or anything like that, although I'm inclined to think that Amy's direction is correct, that getting someone with knowledge of this sort of thing to weigh in and say, listen, here's what I think you could do, and it's going to meet these performance standards to some degree, this is a permissible project, may be a good idea, and it may be worth your while to go out and tap a couple of people and just say, you know, I don't want to, I'm not going to spend a fortune designing this, but if you can look at this with me and come up with something that's reasonable, you know, working with Bob, yeah, I'm, you know, you may find that that's, you can swallow that.
a coastal engineer like this, and just credence to, this would be okay.
Right, either a coastal geologist or a coastal engineer, right.
Really design it, what you want to do.
Well,
We could just-
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm looking to have, we're talking $4,000 or $5,000, have an engineer, a coastal engineer, design a wall. That's not a cheap thing to do. I mean, and I understand what you're saying, but the reasonableness of it is we're talking, rocks. It's one thing for a coastal engineer to say, this amount of tonnage with this height and so on is
Yeah,
reasonable, what we're gonna do.
I think if there's an opinion that something like this
Yeah.
is acceptable, if you'll find someone that'll do that. But that may be one way to skin this out. And the other thought would be, can we get any additional input from DEP? I mean, I know what some of them are gonna, we've been at meetings before, and it's just, you scratch your head with some of the mindset on some of this. I mean, it's
But they talk about, suitable material, the volume, so it's those types of things that they're looking at.
right.
You want to have sufficient volume to obviously take the brunt of the impact that's coming through, so that it adds protection. You don't want to put something there that's just going to get immediately washed away, so it's going to, but yet not put humongous rocks lined up like soldiers so that it's a hard, revetment or
I mean, it almost
pile of
would
rocks,
seem that the people who down on the beach have done this. That is what they've done.
They have.
And that's why I say it's, again, not to diminish the science of it all. But
And
at
it-
some point, you run the numbers and say, I need a 4.5 ton.
And I don't know what it would take to get the state or someone to get at a different mindset with this and look at it and say, you know what, this isn't practical for this area. This Hammerock area is already an altered area, and
And you're making an assumption that those things down the beach are actually doing something that is beneficial, and I'm not so sure that.
well, the houses are there,
Assumed.
so.
Well, but they, if you look at the documentation though, those houses that have the big rocks in front of them get substantial damage. That's one of the things they're trying to prevent.
Right.
Is that when the water and the energy hits those walls, it forces the energy.
And there was
pumping into
I don't know if there was a great,
So-
I mean, not great article, but there was a very interesting article in Wall Street Journal, either Friday or Saturday, and it talked about beaches and restoring the beaches and how development along the waterfront is actually one of the reasons they think that there's failure. People start building all these jetties and different things. They're dredging out in the harbors, and all the things that used to create nourishment for these beaches is now been altered. So you take sea level rise, you take a change in wave frequency, it gets way above my pay grade. But it's pretty complicated, and it was an interesting piece, and it explained, now, like down in Miami, just because they need beaches for their economy, they're literally pumping sand, from offshore, but now they're recognizing that that's creating a lot of other ecological problems. They're stirring up sand out there, which is smothering reefs, which is killing small microorganisms, and it goes on and on.
Right.
We're not going to right the world on this one.
No, but they're like I was saying earlier, this is a barrier beach. It wants to migrate landward, but it's
Right.
developed. It's not
Right,
Duxbury
that's right.
Beach.
It
And you're
doesn't
fighting
operate-
that. You're
it doesn't
fighting
operate as a barrier
what
beach.
nature's trying to do to protect houses, or they'll be gone. They'll be in the water.
Right.
Right, so you want the material to be something that's gonna absorb the energy, not deflect it.
Right.
And it's something that's gonna be stable enough so that it's not gonna immediately bump into the salt marsh.
Right, like
So,
a
I mean-
while back, when we had some seawall repairs, like 2 or 3 years ago, a bunch of them, the state was like, they were okay with riprap in front of the seawall, because they were saying it diffuses the energy and stuff, and the waves don't hit the seawall and then just scour.
Right, it doesn't scour the footings.
And when we just did that, we just did it in Duxbury, because
Yeah.
just the seawall was there, it undermined it down below the footing. The wall was in jeopardy of collapsing, and so they agreed that putting armament in front of that seawall was gonna be beneficial.
Was better,
Right.
yeah, because it doesn't scour.
Not
that.
the ideal solution, but given the.
A Band-Aid on top of a Band-Aid,
Well, given the storm and the possibility of failure,
yeah.
And that's the other hard thing about it, when you get to the size and placement, is with rising sea level and bigger storms, whatever you think is, oh, this will be fine, may not be fine.
right.
You know, it's
we-
dynamic.
We've elevated houses under the old grants program that are now too low. And they were done in the last 20 years. And now those people that paid to get their house out of harm's way and elevate their home beyond what was required 10, 15 years ago or 20 years ago are now not high enough anymore with the new FEMA maps. So,
Well, this is the same-
we got a couple,
Specialty.
we got a couple more hearings tonight. I'm just thinking that we need to continue this. I'd like to get, maybe we can get a little bit more input on DEP.
Well, I mean, we could get some more input from the regulators. We could get scope of work from a peer review consultant or we could have the applicant go direct with coastal.
Personally, rather than have to do two, like a peer review and then.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I think that would, I don't think a peer review would really suit
So we
this.
could give names of suggested coastal
I think if
geologists
there's some people that have come before us before,
Right.
maybe
in this area.
3 or 4 different people that you might,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Wouldn't a coastal engineer be better, though? Because the engineer would be able to tell them and tell us the best way to realign this.
Right, well, they work closely together, the coastal geologist and coastal engineer. I mean,
Whichever one you
ultimately, you're gonna need
hire,
somebody
find
that's
one
gonna
with
stamp the
experience
plan,
doing this.
so
There's a general
probably would have an
stance
engineer
going
title
on.
too.
yeah, it's hard for, I think we'd be better off giving you like 3 or 4 names.
Right.
And then you can maybe even want to talk to a couple of them and,
I know,
Yep.
you know, Bob,
Yeah, I
Bob
have a
started
list
to look at a
of
few
like
of
4 or
these.
5 different engineers on projects like this. that-
and again, I think, they've got a plan from Bob. I think someone with some background that could help and maybe take a look at the application, maybe massage it a little bit and get that would be helpful. All right? And I know that you're anxious to move forward and we just,
It wouldn't be before, I just, when it's just,
yep.
Well, and I think it could be helpful to combine efforts with the neighbors, so you're all proposing.
I don't know, their
the same
projects are
solution.
completely different. I mean, he's working on some remnants of riprap or a wall, they're starting from ground zero.
That's not true.
Okay, couldn't see. 'cause they had-
178 has riprap.
Okay. I don't know, I'd work on my own.
That's one that-
Okay.
It's just a matter of when they redid it.
Right.
And I think that in my case, they redid it more, you know.
They kept it up. They kept up the maintenance.
Yeah, that's right. And that was quite some time ago.
Sure.
But they are 3 consecutive projects quotes in a row, so I mean, I think the same solution by and large would apply.
Okay.
You might have more of a base to work with, but I think that that's the state is going towards
Sure.
that same type of solution.
Okay. We got 2 more hearings.
All right, so how
And
far
so
out
everybody's just been taken from here. Putting
We
it,
should be able to pull this together.
Pardon me?
Not August 6th, August 20th. We're booked August 6th, so.
Can you do that?
Now, I think, just as a point, that Gracie, Bob, and Tom, the other two, they have a continuance for August 6th.
They do.
So I guess if we're going to do it,
Well, wait a minute.
You know, I would probably go to the 20th, because I don't think they're gonna be able to pull it together within a week.
Well, we can always continue it out. Why don't we give them the 6th, and then if worst case scenario, we're just gonna continue it another.
I think Tom's already started on this project for those folks. Some of them in the same boat. They might have already initiated, I think he has, last I heard. So they might have already initiated a coastal engineering.
Sure.
So we might do it the 6th. Now we can-
I
And
mean-
the deadline for material is a week before, so that would
Yeah.
be in a week. But if that works for everybody, that's good. Otherwise, we'll just continue it.
Yeah.
Why don't you see what you can do? Worst case scenario, we'll move it along. All right?
I make a
Appreciate your
motion,
time.
I make a motion to continue 182 Central Ave to August 6th at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
I apologize for taking up your time.
Yeah, we'll get there.
It's a learning curve.
Canal? Neil? Canale? 100 Glades Road. On July 23rd, 6:25 PM, the Town of Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetland hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Arnold Canale to upgrade a septic system on property located at 100 Glades Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Gregory Morse, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner and applicant, Arnold Canale. This is a septic system upgrade project that we filed a notice of intent for. Familiarizing you with the plan, Glades Road is at the bottom of the page. Property line is in black. There's an existing residence at the property. It's a 3-bedroom home. It's currently serviced by a cesspool located in the front yard. At the back of the property is the Atlantic Ocean and Minot Beach. This entire property is located within a velocity zone. It's a velocity zone elevation 20. Again, this property is serviced by a cesspool in the front yard. It fails a Title V inspection. So what we've done is we've proposed a new septic system. The new septic system is a 1,500-gallon septic tank and a series of leaching chambers. It would be located in the front yard under existing grassed surface. We'd dig up the lawn, install the septic, and then we would restore it with grass surface in the disturbed areas. I'll turn it over to you. DEP had no comments on this. Board of Health is awaiting their approval to issue the permit.
There's the house I dragged by, right there.
Any?
No, I don't. They've got to have one.
Big house up here.
Do it.
It's a sweet location.
Doug?
No real question about the project.
Paul?
No questions.
Lisa?
Nothing.
Jen, that's your neck of the woods.
It is. Yeah, they talked to me this weekend. They really need this done so that they can get a new gas line in. So it's definitely of importance to them.
Okay. Amy?
No particular comments. It does have Board of Health approval. And this same type of repair was done in 2009. So it's obviously an area that gets hit with storms.
Anybody in the audience? Take a motion.
I make a motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Fleming, 7 Surfside Road.
I knew it. Oh. Just the amendment. Amendment plan. You want to see the plan, Frank? We discussed this.
Okay.
Here for the original.
Pull it away from you.
Mr. Arbito?
For the record, my name is Paul Marabito from Ross Engineering Company. I'm here representing the owners of the property, John and Diane Plumbing. 2 weeks ago, we were before you seeking to file for an amended order conditions, which we did do. We notified the abutters, and the purpose of the amendment is to connect the garage to the house. The garage area is shown in yellow here. The previous submittal under the order conditions, the garage was going to be detached and closer to this property line. We moved it over approximately 4 feet. We also pushed the house further away from the ocean by about 8 or 9 feet. The other part of the amendment is there is a room above the garage. They have to have a second means of egress under the building code, and that would be the stairway coming down the back. They're also proposing a shed that be attached to the garage for storage purposes. There are no other structures on the property that are proposed. We also picked up the height of the stairs by 2 feet. We picked the garage slab up 1
I think he said over the garage.
Elevation of the ground is 18 at the coastal bank. It slopes away to 17 and 16. The velocity zone is elevation 16, which would be either on top of the ground or into the ground or flood. And the overwash zone, the flood zone is a 16 as well. So the reason they're picking this up is because they do get some overwash from the storms from that riprap that's in this area here. So that's the purpose of the amendment. Do you have any questions right now?
I don't have any questions, but I have no problem representing it.
Want to absorb that for a minute?
I wasn't here for the original one.
I'm good.
Paul?
I'm good.
Lisa?
Paul, what's
No questions?
the vertical data?
Pardon?
What's the vertical data? The elevation, is it?
Jen?
Yep. So tearing down the old one and putting up the
Is
new
that
one?
okay?
Just want to make sure it was.
Amy?
I'm good with this amendment.
So
Yeah.
so we had already approved
The orders,
the order of conditions,
So
moving the house back and putting it on piers.
Yes.
And that garage was gonna be gone or behind the house?
No,
No, it was gonna be off to the left side of the house, but it was gonna be detached.
Right.
Right, and then they moved it
So
around,
they
yeah.
decided to attach it,
Got it.
because of the weather. in the winter.
Okay.
and
So-
they could move-
So the only question I have, Paul, is you're gonna elevate that garage, you got an overwash area, and you're gonna lift that garage up, but essentially that garage is gonna wind up deflecting some water.
No, it'll have some flow-through panels in it.
Okay.
Whether the garage is there or 8 feet away.
No, I mean, it was something there before, I'm not,
Right, yeah,
I'm just wondering,
it does.
we're kind of flipping a little bit. There used to be a large house on the other side that had a solid area, and then this area was open to any flowage.
Mhm.
Now, the house is elevated, water can flow under the house, and now we've got the garage on the other side with a foundation.
And the flow-through panels,
And the flow-through panels really deal with flooding, but it doesn't really do much for,
I mean, the elevation of the off-site land is about 4 feet lower than this one.
okay.
It's a low point.
Yep.
We did a septic system for them years ago, and
Sure.
I did speak to her, I believe it was Mrs. Sullivan.
Yeah.
And she's aware if they are low, and they do get water during storms.
Okay.
So Amy, do you have to do new orders for this, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So it will get the same DEP number with an A on it, and we'll just,
Beautiful house.
yes, you'll list the amendments, and then we'll be referencing a new site plan.
Nice to hear.
We don't get any more time on it for years.
Right, the deadline, well, we just issued this, what, in April or May or something like that?
June, I think.
Oh, June,
We could,
yeah.
and we
So-
can extend the orders too, I mean.
We're ready to start the road.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got
All right.
our contractors all
Is there anybody else in the audience to speak to it?
I make a motion, we start the amended plan on 7 Surfside.
Or a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Please?
I did? Or did you spell it?
Um,
He's,
Oh, goodbye, Paul. Come on, it's Paul.
Orders of conditions?
Motion to accept the order of conditions, 242 Central Avenue as presented.
Second,
Did everybody read those over carefully?
Yeah.
yes. Richard read them very carefully today.
procedural question? Can I vote on something if I wasn't here?
Probably not.
No, don't.
So,
I mean, you could as a good guy, but.
You could say you reviewed the orders and they look good.
yeah, I've got nothing to
You didn't
say.
have any problems.
Right.
All right.
So I'll abstain from,
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then Town of Scituate DPW 32 Gardner Road,
I'll make the same motion that they be accepted as written.
I second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank goodness.
Hey.
That one's been going on for a while.
Okay, yes, a long time.
Are you folks here for,
23 Oceanside?
Oh, on violations, enforcement order updates. We're getting there.
do we want to deal with that one next? They're here.
Well, we have a bunch of them. I don't know how Amy wants to handle it.
Well, yeah, so, we can go to C of C's last if you want to bring up correspondence, agents report. I mean, correspondence, you were emailed the list of all the correspondence.
Yep.
We were.
And, well, so, I would say that, but, I mean, you know, I can probably go on for a while and I try to keep it down. So you have a pretty long list of everything that's going on. But one thing that was exciting is we did get a letter of approval from Plymouth County Mosquito Control.
Yes, I did.
Accepting the trenching of a pretty vast area. I'm not sure exactly what the linear feet was, but it's a lot of channels, all in the Gilson
Right.
Road area.
Yeah.
And then today, I haven't quite followed it, but it looks like they are pulling that.
The Army Corps of Engineers, originally, the Army Corps of Engineers seemed to be on board with this.
Right.
When I went out one time because you and Nancy were at a couple of
Right.
different things. I met somebody from Mosquito Control. They said they thought it was a doable project. However, they had concerns that the Army Corps of Engineers is viewing some of this maintenance that Plymouth County's been doing, and these are all the trenches in the marsh for mosquitoes. They're sort of reviewing that and wondering if they're still on the right course by doing that type of work. Then it seemed like the Army Corps said, well, that seems like a good project, but then they did get this email today saying they want another meeting and they want to review it, and
Right.
they're not sure what else is going on there, which is kind of discouraging. Hopefully it's,
It is, because we had an official package of, it's on our list,
Well, it
officially.
would help too in the winter with flooding down there.
Accepted,
They
so-
clean these trenches out.
Right, so I'm not, stay tuned on that one, I'm not sure.
Did
what's
something
going
new
But
pop up? that-
can I
that
get to
made
these,
them-
these
Right,
guys are
so-
here in the,
So anyways, I'm just going through my list. So that would be an exciting correspondence one. Violations, so we just had 2 updates on 2 violations. One is 23 Oceanside. So just to let you know, and I think I've communicated this anyways, but a notice of intent was submitted for the work as you requested. So there will be a public hearing on August 6th to take a look at that project. And it's a public hearing, so abutters are notified and will get to weigh in on the process.
When a notice of intent comes in on a violation, the cease and desist on that, is that lifted now? Well, he's
No.
down there mowing away like a crazy man. I know that.
Right, and he
Goodbye.
shouldn't be doing that.
He's,
It's already mowed.
Right, so.
It's already mowed.
Yeah, it's already mowed.
all right, so we've been to this project, I mean, I was there with the police when they were filling or regrading the backyard. The police came, we told them to stop. I don't think anything more's happened in the backyard. I told them to get erosion control up there. They did, as far as I can see, there's some erosion control. And then they have to file.
Right,
So the problem is we told them not to cut it.
Yeah, we
So-
told him not to mow anything.
And he did.
Yeah, no, we're aware of it, and we're gonna have this hearing to hopefully go through this piece, but short of that, I don't know what else
Not much.
we can do at this stage. They have an enforcement order. We're gonna have to look at the project. They'll have the opportunity to file to see whether what they did is okay. You'll have the opportunity at that hearing to express your concerns or how it might impact you or the area around it. And then this is gonna be an ongoing process. It's not fun,
Concerning for us,
yeah.
Especially when you ordered him not to mow, and he disregarded that.
We gave
I
him,
don't really understand why, I'm sick of calling the police, I feel like an idiot, but
Well,
it's my property, and this
you-
is what I'm told to do.
and you did that, and we got the call.
And I'm sick of it, I'm sorry, but I'm
Well,
told
you
to
can
do
be
it.
sorry, and it's upsetting. I took time from work to leave what I was doing. I went over there, I met with the police and the property owner, and they removed the equipment. They stopped
Yep.
the grading that day. We did that. I mean, the commission has limited resources to do what they can do. We'll take all that into account when we deal with it with the enforcement order, but unfortunately, it's a process, and it's a frustrating one.
And unfortunately for you guys, we're gonna keep calling.
Well, I mean,
We do want our voices heard, and this is the best way we can do it, as being told and following the guidelines that we've been.
I understand, and we just, you're sitting here, so you heard a man tonight that is following the rules, trying to get the thing done, and yeah, but it's a frustrating piece, and we don't like it either. Certainly, none of us want to be putting a whole bunch of effort into somebody that disregards what the rules are, and we're going to try to make it go through the process. Unfortunately, it's not looked at the same as someone robbing a bank or whatever. It doesn't get dealt with like that. So we know that it's a problem. We're aware of it. I don't know what else to tell you other than we're trying to make them go through the process as well.
There been any plans or anything submitted on this project yet?
yes.
Well, I don't think I got those yet.
Well, we haven't sent them out yet because it's on for the next hearing. So
Gotcha.
you'll get
It's
it.
next week? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we do have a submittal, And we, you know, they can ask for anything, then we have to look at it and say what we agreed to or whatever. We may disagree, tell them to remove it. I can tell you that that will not be a simple process, you know?
I understand.
It's not.
Just don't follow it all the way through.
Yep.
So,
Yep, and we'd like to see it go through as well. All right? All right, thanks for coming in, thanks for your
Persistence.
sorry that you're dealing with that. Thanks.
Okay, so, next one is Cayman, Candlewood. So, that's a hot one. If you probably saw, he submitted a restoration plan for the area at the end of the orchard on the
But he didn't deal
left.
at all with the
Right.
most recent.
He didn't deal at all with the most recent alteration, so, but what they told me is that they are in the process of putting together a notice of intent, which will
Okay.
include a site plan.
Okay.
You know, because you need to have a, you know, an official site plan for a notice. And I'm not sure the angle they're gonna work on that, but, I mean, based on site visit that Frank and I performed, it was definitely altered,
Without question.
the resource area,
Yeah.
yes.
Did you explain to them that we want that area included as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and we have abutters that are concerned about other things such as time of day, activity, and, which is a police matter, and encroachment. So again, those are more civil matters, but the wetlands, I mean, I think we're making progress because he's got a wetland scientist, he's at least submitted a plan for that one area, and if you've looked at it, I mean, I think it looks like a good plan, so I'm prepared to accept it with your, I don't know if you need a vote on that plan to issue a restoration order to accept that, or if you want to wait for the other one, like how you want to handle it.
Why don't we get the other one, and then we'll just pull it all.
Meanwhile, I did write to him today to remind him of a cease and desist, because he, again, shouldn't be doing anything out there.
And the neighbors
But,
came in.
yeah, the neighbor's been in a lot, and apparently the tractors, well, it was quiet, and now it's been firing up, and so.
We can wait till the next area is disturbed and then do them all together.
Yeah, and,
Why don't we find this guy? It's been 18 years of various violations. Frank, please.
Don't start that. We've had this conversation that goes nowhere for.
so, I think as long as he works with us, I'm not sure that
We-
finding.
But when
is gonna-
when he goes against your cease and desist,
Yeah.
what's our recall there? I mean, this past
Why don't you
week-
why don't you sit with the attorney, like Amy and I did, and talk through the thing and see how involved this is?
No, I know it's
You know,
involved, but it's just
they-
so frustrating that you tell him to stop and then the neighbors are in the
Well,
next day. He was out there
I
last
think
night.
I think that by submitting the plan, he must have thought that was gonna get us
I guess.
off his back, you know, and he could fire up the machinery, so I just had to
Oh.
remind him that that wasn't the case, right?
What we need to do is get Amy arresting authority.
yeah.
We don't have that. I wish we did.
No.
Is that
Well-
fine?
I mean, we've actually talked some about whether there isn't some way for the town to add some sort of element of an enforcement person with some authority.
Right, you had a police officer in the
That-
budget a
that
couple
was
years
done.
ago.
That was done before last year. Remember? There
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a whole. There was X amount of dollars, and
Yeah.
there was a bunch of things they did.
Yeah, that went somewhere else.
Well, and unfortunately, without Patrick, we've got a little less muscle in this department as well, so, you know. we're doing
Wasn't
the
that
best we
on,
can.
wasn't that on Jen's description? Wasn't she gonna do?
I'm struggling to take minutes right now. I don't think you want me to
Jen,
force it.
say no. Say no.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Are you going to, did you give an answer on 24 Webster?
Yes. Yes, and, well, she just asked me to forward the last email,
Yeah.
which sounds like we're at odds, and then I think it was, we're gonna see you in a conference, was the last statement, so I don't think that's going so well.
I'm not sure what they don't understand about all down.
Right.
Right, well, you know what they're doing, we're gonna keep proposing the same thing that we proposed before. We'll propose it newly.
The
Yeah.
south side, that new block, he don't want to take it down.
Actually, it's the north side, I think, but.
Oh, and here's another one that I figure that these are all cyclical. They ramp up during this time of year, and then they settle back down, people go back into high, anyway, so Gannett Road, those players are out in full force. And again, I think that's a civil matter mostly. Police are involved.
Halloween's early this year.
320 Gannett, that one.
Yeah.
Lobster pots.
Yes.
Mowing
Yeah.
salt.
I got pictures.
Salt Marsh. Jen, that was our first visitor this morning.
Oh,
I-
boy.
I was behind the wall and she handled it beautifully, so.
So she never came out?
I was just observing, well, because I had spoken to him on the phone a couple days ago.
Amy's got this little flower pot telescope.
Yeah,
Who's out there?
yeah.
Well, I hate to talk to everybody at all times because I'll get nothing done, so. That's why Pat was down in the closet down the hall,
Yeah.
so.
No, it isn't. He had other reasons for being there.
All right, so with this is gonna just keep flapping in the wind.
Well, no, I think that, but this is where you take a case where the commission has decided to
Yeah.
draw a line.
Yeah, we drew the line.
So to the folks that were in here tonight, now we have an enforcement order, we've said you gotta do this.
Yeah.
They're saying they don't have to, so now legal counsel is involved and it's moving towards court. So, none of it's simple.
No, it isn't, and this has been going on for quite a few years.
Right.
So they think we're gonna get 20
And-
Oceanside done.
And I think it's gonna be interesting to see how, if it actually goes in front of a judge, how does a judge look at this? To them, is it?
Well, that, what town
something
council
that they can
basically said,
enforce, or-
we could lose everything. over-
Well, anytime you go to court, anything can happen.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
it.
crapshoot,
Anything,
depending
yeah.
on,
Guarantee, even though we're 150%.
We know it'll cost a lot of
Well,
money.
wouldn't the court, what would be the court,
Sympathize with them.
no, but I mean, like, wouldn't the court just be deciding whether or not you exceeded your authority? Or they would, the court wouldn't be looking at it with this, the court wouldn't look at this and say, I think it's okay to leave a wall up.
No, what they do is whenever you go to court, there's a story. They will come in with a story, a well-practiced, rehearsed, spun story of their version,
And the
Like I
town's
said in,
bullies.
one of our meetings, you watched the OJ trial, didn't you? And, you saw the results. It's, everybody goes in and pitches their story.
And they go in and they pictures of us. And we tried to be very nice to them because the house was burned down by a fire and then they just totally overstepped that.
Well, and these other enforcement orders, you're saying it's a difficult thing to levy a fine then, too.
It is.
It is, it's not that.
The way that DEP, the guidelines that DEP gives you is first try to make some resolution. Try to work out a resolution without being more,
Punitive or
Yeah.
aggressive. or-
so start there, and then if that doesn't happen, then you ramp it up to the next one and to the next one. Is how they, is the approach they'd like to have you take. And it's amazing, I mean, you find some people that just had no clue that they were in violation, and when they're given that order, they're mortified that they did something wrong and they can't wait to fix it.
Immediately fix it.
And then we have others that were fully aware and we're just hoping that they never got caught. Yeah,
And
or
they
just don't
fight with
care.
us and fight
And they know the drill,
because they frequent fires.
so,
Frank, public access, the public meeting.
yeah. So we need to have a public meeting to inform people of where we're at with our parking and trails. And we need to do that relatively soon. I'm pretty flexible. What do you want to, any thoughts, Penny, on
I
it?
have no problem, and I believe fall is anytime, as quickly and as soon as possible.
Where are you gonna have the said meeting? Out in the West End?
Yeah, at Mount Hope.
Well, we were thinking about it. I mean, it's anybody's call. That was my thought.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
The one time we had a meeting out there, it worked very well.
How many people do you anticipate will show
Well,
up?
you just don't know. Frank and I spoke with all the neighbors when we first started this project 3 or 4 years ago, okay? But it's been a while, so now that the actual plans are done, we have the funding from CPC, we're ready to go out to bid, well, we still have a couple of little things, but we hopefully will be out to bid soon. So we wanted to meet once more with the neighbors, because we don't want to have problems.
We're gonna have a public hearing
And let
on
them know
some
again.
wetlands hearings on these projects, and we're ready to file those.
Yeah.
So we just thought before that, it would be good to just have a general meeting.
Make sure.
And there's two
not
things that are
any-
really
Just
going
go
on.
over it again.
Yeah, we'd like to combine two things. We have the work that's going on with the trails and maps, and we'd just
Yeah.
like to show that to folks, get some public input on that,
Okay.
and at the same time, get some public input on where we are with the parking and the access roads. I was thinking about notification. Can we do that with just a newspaper ad and the website?
I don't think so.
For our, it's an informal
It's an
meeting.
informational meeting,
Yeah,
yeah.
just information on
Yeah.
the parking.
There's nothing anyone can appeal or,
So,
No, no.
You could
Right.
put it on the website though, too.
So do we-
That would be helpful.
do we want to try to do something as early as next week, or do we want to go to the week after?
I'm being whoever. I am sitting here waiting.
With bated breath.
Is anybody, we have a meeting on the 6th that
Yeah.
week, so I don't care if it's another day that week, or if we want to try to push it into next week. I'm not available on the 2nd, August 2nd, but we could do something next Tuesday or Wednesday, or we could hold off to the following week.
Well, who do we want there? Do we want, Jeff Hassett there?
Yeah.
And my brother, so we better go the following week. All right, because next week might be too quick to.
All right, so the week of the 6th, and why don't we check with the two of them and see if we can set something up for either Tuesday or Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday?
Of the second week in August.
Yeah, so the 7th, 8th, or 9th?
If you want me there, it needs to be Tuesday, because
Okay.
I'm not available Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay.
that week.
All right.
All right, I will,
Do we want Amy there?
Now, you don't probably need me there, but
Well,
I'd like to
have
be
her. She
there.
doesn't have to.
you notice the question, it wasn't do we need her, do we want her?
I'm on vacation
Poor
until
Amy.
No, that's all right. The whole board does. It's not
We
so-
want Amy there.
Right, but sometimes you're better off
Yeah,
not
my
to.
brother when he's actually.
So that week you're not available, Doug?
I am not.
Okay,
I'm
But the whole board-
I'm here on the 6th for
Yeah.
for the
for the
final
meeting.
but then I,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I don't even know.
I was kind of hoping that Doug would start to work with Paul a little bit on some of this, so,
well,
okay,
You have no idea, we have fun.
all right. We'll get a date and then get back to everybody on that
Yes.
one.
Okay, and
If
just
you
real
can
quick,
come, fine, if you can't, that's okay.
Yeah.
too.
I have 3 certificates of compliance that I'm gonna have to sign.
I already talked to Tom.
2 single-family homes that were constructed and a DPW project. And the 4th, we'll hold off on, just because I haven't been out there. We'll put that on the next agenda.
Which one are we holding off on? I'm sorry?
Homes,
Okay, thank you.
Penny, when you did a continuation earlier for Jacob Hatch, did you continue that one to the 20th?
But who?
Jacob Hatch,
Um,
10
Yes.
Driftway?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
the 20th.
yeah,
Okay,
10 New Drift West,
good, okay.
Scarzio. Right?
Scanzillo.
Scansville.
Oh, yeah, and I'm meeting with Martin this week to go over an amendment to that order.
Did you guys catch that? That
What?
house that we had multiple hearings on Border Street, now they don't want to tear it down.
Oh,
Well, you
yeah,
want to tear
yeah.
it down? I know that she wants to switch it up, but I'm going to meet with her on Thursday morning to go
But
over.
the beautiful piece of land that I would give my 19 to own. Oh, interesting.
They-
That land.
They've lived in it, and now they like where it is, and so they're thinking of revamping that plan considerably. After these multiple hearings and,
53 border?
yeah,
With,
Yeah.
Are
you kidding?
67.
60.
67, the other one.
Oh.
the-
Just
yeah.
I think you said
Yeah.
53.
It is before.
Right.
You haven't been out
Oh,
there.
67.
It's most breathtaking piece of
Yeah.
property.
After all the remeasurements they did?
Well, I think part of it is too, is how much they've spent on engineering and everything. It kind of blows a lot of your
Can't
budget.
afford to do the bathroom all in.
Oh, yeah, they certainly can afford it.
Are we done?
All right.
So,
What else?
reorganization?
What's that river?
The Gulf?
The Gulf.
Yeah.
Right across the way, there's like I know where it is.
Yeah. It's almost across from the Andersons' property on the
Yeah.
other side.
It's one of them,
Okay, I
All
think
right.
we're ready.
Amy and I are desperate.
So we have to,
Oh, okay.
we have to think about reorganizing, or
Yeah.
we don't
Oh,
have to
right.
do it tonight, but
Well, let's just do it and get it over with. I make a motion that I nominate Frank Snow as chair
You
and
could-
Richard Harding as vice chair.
I second.
you
All
can
in
change it.
favor?
You can-
Nope.
I'm in charge right now, Frank.
Chief
All in
bottle
favor?
washer and assistant bottle
I
washer.
don't know why Penny doesn't take over this.
I don't know either.
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't want that. No.
So what is your position? You're,
I'm
Clerk,
just-
the mouthpiece.
I'm the mouth.
no, but doing that,
Oh, I don't know, am I the clerk?
I think so.
I'm the clerk.
I'd like to nominate
Secretary, isn't it?
Penny for the clerk and everything else that the commission has to do.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you.
I'm all set.
I wish everything went as quick.
All right, anything else?
We're all set. We're moving on. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So wait,
Lisa.
What?
All in favor?
wait, wait. All right.
Wait a minute, who wants to talk? Oh, there's the